targets. He said that currently they have established 20 gardens across the West Coast region, all fenced and equipped with solar-powered irrigation systems to ensure horticultural production throughout the year. Additionally, a post-harvest component has been incorporated to enable communities to process food. This, Baji said, makes the project unique in the Gambia. In order to achieve this, all the gardens have been provided with the necessary equipment and infrastructure. The Paramount Chief, Alhaji Demba Sanyang, on behalf of the farmers, thanked Galdep for providing the infrastructure and expertise to local communities, saying it would positively impact on agricultural productivity in the Gambia and help actualize the vision of the President. Mamadou Diallo, Grts.
The protracted gun control controversy in the United States is showing no signs of flagging. Find out why President Obama is trying to pressurize Congress to do things his way. And authorities in Turkey are still trying to find out who was behind last Friday's suicide attack on the U.S. Embassy in Ankara. And when we come back, we look at the growing discontent from Cairo as opposition groups call on President Morsi's resignation. Welcome back. Egypt's main opposition group is calling for President Mohamed Morsi's resignation following deadly clashes with security forces near the presidential palace. The country's interior minister apologized after what looked like officers were seen on TV live beating a man who had been stripped naked near the palace. CNN's Ivan Lee has the latest from Cairo, but some of the images are disturbing.
The kind of brutality that shocks the world but doesn't surprise Egyptians. Live on Egyptian TV. Hamada Sabr stripped naked and beaten by riot police near the presidential palace in Cairo. The government issued a rare apology calling it an individual attack that didn't reflect police policy, and there will be an investigation. But scenes like these aren't uncommon. A year ago, a woman dubbed Blue Bra was dragged and beaten by military police. The atrocity became a rallying cry for the end of military rule. Even Egypt's revolution was ignited by police beating an Alexandria man to death.
One of the main demands of this revolution has been a reform and restructuring of the Ministry of Interior, which is responsible for the police forces. Unfortunately, nothing has happened.
Sabr was taken to a police hospital for treatment where, despite the irrefutable evidence, he appeared on state TV claiming protesters, not the police, assaulted him. But family members have gone public, accusing security forces of coercing them to say that.
He was obviously, him and his wife were threatened, we know that. The reason why he was taken to the hospital that is, part of the police force hospital, so only people, who are police actually get treated there, is that so no one could, have access to him, like media, like human rights groups.
The picture isn't all black and white, says former police captain Mahmoud Abdelnali. Security forces used to confront protesters are filled with uneducated conscripts. Abdelnali says the poorly paid, mistreated young men are turned into drones. The Central Security Force soldier is the most obedient soldier in the police force, says Abdelnali. He executes orders, whatever it is. He doesn't think. He's uneducated. It's the first time in his life to go out of his village. The country's security forces are in a state of disarray. Abdelnali says mistreatment by the government and clashes with the protesters have demoralized them. He doesn't make excuses for the brutality, but says it goes higher up than the grunt on the ground. I blame the president, prime minister, and the interior minister, then the officers and the soldiers who did the act. This scene is not a show of power, but rather proves the weakness and low morale of those soldiers, he says. President Mohamed Morsi has promised to reform the security forces. Abdel Nali believes the clock is ticking. CSF soldiers are starting to sympathize with the people, and the people with CSF soldiers. The longer time they stay in the streets together, I predict they will join forces. By then, promises of reform may be too late. Ian Lee, CNN, Cairo.
Turkish state media said that 3 people are being questioned about Friday's suicide attack on the U.S. Embassy in Ankara. The Revolutionary People's Liberation Party has claimed responsibility for the bombings. Nick Robertson's look at Saturday's funeral for the embassy guard killed in his line of duty.
Funeral for the slain U.S. embassy guard. Generations join in grief. His son in his teens. And the guard's father, who never thought he'd live to bury his own child. And the ambassador for whom he worked.
It's a very painful moment for all of us. We bid goodbye to one of our own. He turned out to be a hero.
Even as embassy guard Mustafa Akazu is being laid to rest, efforts are still underway to find out why he died, why the American embassy was targeted. This new video possibly providing some clues. It shows the alleged bomber, Eshevit Chandler, apparently on his way to attack the embassy. Hidden by his jacket, the 6 kilograms of TNT-like explosives Turkish officials say were strapped to his chest. Confirmation Shanley was the bomber, the government says, coming from DNA tests and a claim of responsibility from the leftist group, the DHKPC. For decades, virulently anti-American, their rambling statement expresses anger at tightening US-Turkish ties, blames the US for civilian deaths in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and blasts America for siding with Syria's rebels. Outside the embassy now, fears another attack possible. Too many unanswered questions. In particular, could the DHKPC have done this alone? Turkey's Prime Minister says he doesn't believe that the attacks are linked to Syria, but it is a politically sensitive issue here. There are many in Turkey that believe the Prime Minister rushed the country into backing Syria's rebels without fully taking into account what the consequences might be. On the wooded hillside above his mountain town, embassy guard and father of 2, Mustafa Akasu, arrived to be laid to rest. For him, any answers already too late.
It almost doesn't matter. There's no justification for the sacrifice we just saw today, the loss of that family, or there's no good excuse for it.
But even as mourners were saying their last goodbyes, arrests were being made elsewhere. Little doubt here, there is more to learn. Nick Robertson, CNN, Kızılca Hamam, Turkey.
Washington's battle over gun control is about to enter a new phase as President Obama tries to put more pressure on members of Congress to see things his way. When he hits the road on Monday, CNN's Athena Jones reports.
President Obama heads to Minnesota Monday, his first stop in a campaign to win support for his gun policy proposals, an effort he promised in Newtown.
In the coming weeks, I'll use whatever power this office holds to engage my fellow citizens.
He'll meet with residents and police in Minneapolis, a city the White House says has taken important steps to reduce gun violence. Over the weekend, the White House released this photo of the president's skeet shooting at Camp David last August, a nod to gun sports aimed at signaling law-abiding gun owners have nothing to fear. Monday's trip follows dramatic testimony on Capitol Hill.
It will be hard, but the time is now. You must act.
Former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, shot in the head 2 years ago, urged Congress to be courageous and support measures like universal background checks and limiting the size of gun magazines.